BBC World Service. Now, BBC Learning English.
Hello and welcome to Talk About English. I'm Callum Robertson. In today's program, we're going to be looking at the topic of pronunciation. What makes good pronunciation, and what is it that native speakers do when they're talking that you can do to make your spoken English more fluent and natural? To discuss these topics, I've been joined today by teacher, trainer and materials writer Alan Stanton. Hello.
Hello.
When learning a language, there are many things to study and practice, such as vocabulary and grammar, skills like reading, writing and speaking. A key to good speaking is good pronunciation. Alan, first, how important do you think pronunciation is as a language skill? And what do we mean by good pronunciation?
Well, people want to be understood when they speak to others. They don't want their words to be mistaken for other words because they haven't pronounced them very well. I remember here a story, this is an absolutely true story, about a lady who was visiting London and she wanted to buy a train ticket to Istanbul in Turkey. So she went to Victoria Station to inquire about trains to Turkey, and unfortunately she was sold a ticket to Torquay, which is a town in the southwest of England in completely the opposite direction. Now, there is a difference between Turkey and Torquay.
So good pronunciation is important because you could easily be misunderstood.
Yes, I think good pronunciation has to be clear and comprehensible, not placing the strain on the listener and making your meaning absolutely clear so that you are not misunderstood. But of course, it doesn't have to be a perfect imitation of any particular native speaker accent.
Right, so where do learners, or where should learners start with pronunciation? Because something students often say is the spelling of English is very different from the pronunciation.
We have 26 letters in the alphabet that we use in English, but we have 44 sounds.
Okay, we'll take that point later. First of all, talking about the pronunciation in the English language, there was a problem. What was the problem? Because of pronunciation problem, the lady got the wrong ticket to the wrong destination. Okay, so that's how the power of pronunciation affects the life of everyone in using this language. That is number one. Now next, we are going to talk about pronunciation based on sounds as well as spelling. Yeah, is it clear enough for you? Okay.
So the spelling is not always a good guide to the pronunciation, but we can use phonemic symbols, and there are 44 phonemic symbols, one for each sound. And these symbols represent the sounds of words accurately. And it's possible to find out the correct pronunciation of a word by using a dictionary, because after the spelling of the word, the next thing is that word in phonemic symbols. If you know these symbols, and they're not really difficult to learn, you can find out the pronunciation just by looking at the dictionary. You don't have to ask your teacher.
Now, you mentioned before that students don't need to have a native speaker accent, is that right?
I think that's right. I mean, there are many acceptable native speaker accents. There's not simply one native speaker accent in English, and there's providing people's pronunciation is clear and comprehensible. It doesn't matter if they have an accent from their first language. I don't think that's a problem at all. However, I think it's important to understand native speakers whose speech inevitably will be fast and fluent. And this may cause difficulties for learners. And I think it's important to know what native speakers do when they speak, because it helps in comprehension.
Okay, I will come to that afterwards. Now, talking about pronouncing words in English based on spelling. The major problems in the Malaysian context is that we always try to pronounce words based on their spellings. And the rules in the English language does not allow that to happen, because we have words in English pronounced very differently from the spelling. So spelling is not a good guide for pronunciation. So to avoid that from happening, we must have some guidelines. The guidelines you have in the module of the phonemic charts. Okay, I have the phonemic charts which I will show to you later. Again, another point stressed here is that you do not have to sound like native speakers to speak good English. What must you do to speak comprehensively? You must say the words clearly, pronunciation must be good, and you don't have to sound like English. Okay? But of course, you must be able to understand when the Englishman speaks. Again, in our context, in doing so, in trying to limit ourselves to this kind of situation, we tend to avoid practicing the rules. That's why later we find out that we speak English, but we do not have the correct intonation, we do not have the correct pronunciation. There are sounds in the English language which we do not articulate when we speak. One reason why this happens is because some of these English sounds do not exist in the mother tongue of our people. Okay, we have people who will not be able to pronounce the sound for the letter R. So fry becomes fly. Fried rice becomes fried rice. Now, why does this happen? It's because that these sounds does not occur in the mother tongue. Okay, so and how can we correct this? Can we change this problem? Yes, we can. It will take a certain amount of time through some practices. Okay, we can change this. So, what are the things that we must know? Let's listen. Yeah.
And it's useful for listening to the radio, for television, for films. Even if you don't actually meet many native speakers face to face, you may well be exposed to lots of native speaker English through electronic media.
So let's have a look now at some of these things that native speakers do when we're speaking. So what's the first one that comes to mind?
One important feature is the weak pronunciation of vowel sounds. For example, the word and is often pronounced and in phrases like fish and chips, and the preposition to is often pronounced as to. If you say let's go to Cambridge, for example, it just sounds like to.
You almost don't hear it at all. It's so short. That's usually why you call it weak.
Yes, in fact, there's a name for this weak form. It's called schwa, and the phonemic symbol looks like an upside down E, and it's very, very common.
So that's schwa, the weak form, and we'll be hearing some examples of that later on in the program. But there's another interesting thing about spelling and pronunciation, is that the number of letters in a word is not the same as the number of sounds in a word.
That's right. There are some words, like the word cat, C-A-T, where we can hear every sound that appears in the spelling. 3 letters and 3 sounds. But in contrast, if we take a word such as catch, there are 5 letters, C-A-T-C-H, but there are only 3 sounds, k and ch. So therefore, 3 phonemic symbols will appear in the dictionary. If we take the past tense of that word, caught, C-A-U-G-H-T, 6 letters, but only 3 sounds.
Okay. Again, another explanation of pronunciation in English. Sometimes words in English, a word has got 5 letters. Okay, 5 letters, but you will only hear 3 sounds. Only 3 sounds in 5 letters. So some words are not pronounced as they are spelled. Okay, later in my slides, we'll see more of these examples.